Great. So why don't we then kick things off with a quick update about where we are as a community. Um, this uh, this session, I'll split it into two. There's this session, and I'll have another quick highlight at the end of the day, Thursday, during our closing session, with a bit more statistics. But I did want to give everybody here a heads up on a couple of things that we think are key that you need to pay attention to. So just two very small things. Those two things are, one, an opportunity regarding a certification program that we have partnered with Finos and the Linux Foundation to offer to all of you, this group. Some of you may already have seen it. We'll go into some level of detail about what it is and how to go about it. And then two, we will talk a little bit about an ongoing effort most of you are aware about, which is to restructure the Design Authority. So let's talk about the Financial Services Open Source Developer Certification. Now, one of the ideas, initiatives that we've been thinking about, I've spent some time thinking about, is how do we provide some value and how do we increase and build the capacity of our community members across the board, beyond just having a Mojaloop-centric offering, which is what currently exists in the training program, which many of you, I believe, have done. If you haven't, you can find it on learn.mojaloop.io. Now, we spent some time looking around the particular need, and we identified that our community would greatly benefit from some training around open source development, especially in the context of building financial services. We are building a tool that is deeply integrated, is deeply domiciled within the broader financial services industry. And so we figured this particular certification, which is offered by good friends of ours at Finos, would be a good way to go. I'll go through it in some level of detail, but I do want to start by telling you who Finos is. Now, Finos built this in partnership with the Linux Foundation. The Linux Foundation, most of you should be familiar with. Some of you may not be familiar with Finos. Finos is a group made up of open source developers from some of the largest financial institutions, banks across the globe. And they have many open source projects, all of them relevant to the financial services industry. And they even now have different offerings for training capabilities. And so we spoke to them, and it was quite a bit of a match made in heaven to offer this particular certification. Now, this certification is an exam. Let me start by saying that. And this exam is essentially designed for developers, such as the majority of you people here, and the bulk of the people in our community who are contributing to open source projects, and as all the while working with financial institutions internationally. Oftentimes, those of you who are in the work streams have probably or would probably recall the experience of having to deal with having to work with central bankers or certain financial institutions or financial regulatory bodies. And we figured that this is for some people in our community, they would benefit for some training on figuring out the relations and how they contribute in that broader financial services context. The people who take this exam will, of course, demonstrate a firm understanding of how open source contribution should occur within the financial services industry, in which we occupy a small corner of. Now, this exam is not free. If you were to take it by yourselves, it would cost $250 per person. And so what we did is that we worked out a way where we could provide this certification, this exam, to you all for absolute free, at no cost to you. The exam explores, just in case you're curious about what competencies the exam is meant to tease out and certify. There are 5 very broad categories, competencies here. One is ethics and behavior in open source. 2, it gives you a quick refresh on open source licensing. 3, consuming open source, what that looks like from an adopter point of view, or from a developer point of view, consuming other open source products or integrating them within your work, as many of us do in our various work streams. 4, we also talk about contributing to open source. What are the parameters? What are the norms around contributing to open source? This one's particularly key because we do, Moduloop is an open source software, and open source, the broader open source movement has certain norms and cultures that would do well to emulate and bring into our community culture and our community operations here within the Moduloop community. And then a key one directly related to the financial services ecosystem is the regulatory impact on open source. This is particularly key because we sort of want to tease out your understanding of the impact that regulatory regulations, regulatory bodies have, and the relationship they have with the open source movement. So, as much as this is an exam that costs $250 a person, this exam is you do get a bit of training and support before you actually sit the exams. These courses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 courses that will take you roughly 11 hours to complete, maybe shorter because most of you are probably familiar with a number of these concepts. We have identified 6 courses, which if you take your time to go through, the 6 courses will be able to give you a better, some more insights and prepare you to do to take the certification course. These courses are all up on the Linux Foundation's training website. And I will put this deck in, just in case you're wondering where to get this deck, so that you can click through on all these links. You'll get them at moduloop.io/decks. That's DECKS. So up on that page, you will get access to these links, which will take you directly to all these courses. All these courses are absolutely free of charge. I have personally taken and completed all these courses. The first one, LFC 102, gives you community orientation. Just gives you a quick understanding of how community works in the context of open source. LFC 193, Introduction to Open Source License Compliance Management, goes into teasing out the details of open source licenses and compatibilities and their compliances. The third one, Developing Secure Software, goes into some depth of security around and security protocols and processes around best practices around open source development. The fourth one, Open Source Contribution in Finance, talks about the norms of contributing within the financial services industry, and just some of the nuances of how that works out. This, I think, would be very valuable for many of our contributors in the Moduloop community and wider ecosystem. Open source development practices. These are just best practices, best norms. Many of you are already familiar with these, but they do go on into some level of detail, and they're directly related with what happens in the financial services industry. And then, of course, collaborating effectively with open source projects such as Moduloop, again, goes back into the cultural norms and best practices for participating in open source contributions and open source projects. Now, these courses, a total of 11 hours, if you take all these courses, all of them are free. I've checked, I've checked all these courses, I've done all these courses. Will allow you to confidently take the certification exam. So how do we go about this? We have for some time, this is week 3, opened up applications. We have limited slots for people who are interested in applying for this sponsorship. It is the only thing you need to do is go to the little website linked in there, moduloop.io/Finos FSOSD certification. The first page will give you in some level of detail the information I've just summarized. And the second page is a quick application form, should take you no more than a minute to fill out. The deadline for these applications is this Friday, July 12th, so there's not a lot of time, but I did want to highlight it here for everybody, just in case you might have missed it in some of the marketing collateral that went out, either on Slack or through the newsletter. But just in case you missed it, you still have a few days. Please do consider taking up this particular program. It's one of the ways that we have created now to add some value back to our contributing community members. And we hope that you'll also see and find value in it and take advantage of the opportunity. Again, the way to do that is click on the link down below, takes you to the Mojo website, gives you some information and a quick application form. We intend to notify everybody about all the people who have successfully received the scholarship next week. So please do take the earliest opportunity to apply for this. Great. Now, another thing, changing gears here, focuses on the Design Authority. Now, the Design Authority is one of the community governance groups bodies that we have at the Mojo Loop Foundation and within the Mojo Loop community. And they do a plethora of work. Over the years, the Design Authority has done a lot of very useful and very important work. But as the community has grown, as our focus has shifted around, as we have begun to fine-tune our roadmap and the work streams and the operational processes that make all these things work in our community, we've had to step back and take a look at restructuring the Design Authority. Now, this effort is being led, was initiated by at the TGB, the Technical Governing Body, which is not a community governance group. It is one of the governing bodies of the Mojo Loop Foundation. And the work is being led by Engineering Director James Bush. Now, they do want to hear your input. We have been collecting input for quite a while now, but just in case you might have missed the announcement or you're not sure how to give your input, there is a very quick and easy form. The link is there on the slide that you can use to give your feedback into what if you have any thoughts or if you want to share certain experiences about your interactions with the Design Authority. If you've got any thoughts around its role in the community, any suggestions for any improvements or anything of that sort, the TGB would really, really like to hear your voice on this matter. So please do take some time and fill out the form. And when you fill out the form, this process will then, or if you can, please find James Bush. He's pretty easy to find on Slack, email, anywhere where the community hangs out. It should be pretty easy and straightforward to get him on board, to pass your feedback to him. Kindly do this with priority. I do want to insist that this process is pretty much turning towards the tail end. And at the appropriate time, James will probably host a community call to give everybody a quick feedback on where things currently stand and what the process is going forward. So that's it. That is how you can find me, in addition, on Slack. I hope these two quick updates gives you a sense of what's happening in the community and what you should be paying attention to.